you can tell that our brains are constantly just thinking about how can we make our teams better? How can we make ourselves better, make our teams better on a consistent basis? It's like all we think about. So today's episode, we're very, very excited about the president of Next Door Lending, the CEO of AIM,
Yes,
which we're going to get into in a minute, has assisted or helped with over $5 billion in mortgages throughout his career. I was just like, what's like the total? Like $5 billion, right? John Haddad, thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Matt Talbot. This is the Redefine Real Estate Podcast. So we're super excited about our guest today. We want to deep dive. I can try to do my best to explain some of your stuff, but instead I think it's much more proper if you do.
I appreciate it.
So why don't we start with an overview just quickly of NDL and then AIM and then who you are, and we'll dive into some other questions after that.
Thank you so much. So this is the first one, right?
Yes.
Did I make the official?
Yes, I very much wanted you to be the first one.
Thank you, bro.
So,
It means a lot.
We can kick this off proper that way.
Thank you, man. No, we've been building our relationship over the years, and I think there's a lot of alignment from just the philosophy side of it. So I really, really appreciate that. It means a lot. I went to bed super late, but I was like, I'm not missing this. Like, there's just no way I'm canceling or missing this. But yeah, give you a quick overview. So I've been in the industry doing mortgages now for over 11 years. So I started at 21 years old, 32 now. I started at one of the largest retail lenders in the country. I was at Rocket Mortgage for quite some time, grew through the ranks rather quickly, became a vice president, ended up in California, got my real estate license out there. I wanted to be around really rich people. So I did commercial real estate, got an awesome mentor. The guy did, billions of dollars in commercial. And I was like, okay, this is where the money is. Let me just learn and understand. Got back into mortgages. So that's how Next Door Lending was formed, and joined with my partners, Doug and Nader at the time. And we exploded Next Door Lending in a very short period of time. Within our first full year, we did $250 million. Our second year, we did $500 million. Our third year, we did $600 million. Last year, we did $832 million.
Wow.
So we are a top 10 brokerage in the nation. I still am doing loans, originating, having a lot of fun. But my passion lies with the team that I'm really fortunate to have. So we focus with real estate agents, as you know. You guys are a grateful, big part of that and what we're growing. But my team is about 20 strong. And so I'm growing and scaling that, teaching them how to interact, connect with people. And then I recently took over as the CEO of AIM, the Association of Independent Mortgage Experts. And that organization has the most amount of mortgage brokers ever across the country. Our goal is really simple. It's to help educate consumers about using a mortgage broker and how it's just that much cheaper, that much better, that much quicker of a process for consumers and clients alike, as opposed to using retail. There's a ton of data out there that consumers save over $9,300 by using a mortgage broker. And so my job is to keep people positive, shake hands, kiss babies, have a lot of fun. So I've been doing that now for a little over 90 days, tons of travel, but it's been quite a journey. And the thing I love most, recently became a dad of twins. Got a third on the way in November because I'm a psychopath. So my wife and I were going to have a 3 under 1.5. So hopefully I did a good job kind of breaking that down for you in a nutshell.
Yeah, that was definitely laid out very concise, and you hit all the main bullet points. I didn't even get a chance to like add in, like, he's got 2 babies at home, a third one on the way on top of all this stuff. So there's obviously a lot to unpack there. And I think that's what the viewers and listeners of this episode will get a lot out of, is really understanding a little bit more about you for sure. But I think that there's a lot of lessons in both growing NDL, how it ties in with AIM, which I want to get into later on, and then just kind of talk a little bit about some leadership stuff, some sales acumen, a few good things that you do on a daily basis. We'll kind of end with that if you're cool with this. That's sort of like my agenda for today. So Next Door Lending, you mentioned what it is. And what do you see? And this is kind of like a standard blanket question. Yeah. So like, just so you guys know, like John's not prepared. Like I did not send him any questions whatsoever. We just roll into these, okay? But what are the biggest current challenges for mortgage lenders? It's 2024. There's a lot of things happening. What's the biggest challenge for LOs? What do you see at NDL? What are you guys working on? All that good stuff.
So I think this goes across the board, not just for loan officers. I think it goes for agents too. The biggest issue that I'm seeing is people having the realization that the COVID years are gone. And people, and I know you're smiling, but it's the truth. I can't take it anymore. The low-hanging fruit is no longer around. And so what I mean by low-hanging fruit is, look, during COVID, and this isn't disrespect, by the way, this is just the reality of where we're at. During COVID, if you're an agent or a loan officer, you walk under a tree and the fruit's falling into your lap. You literally have a deal. You're closing. Everyone's high-fiving. There's celebrations. People are like talking about how they're the best person in the world at what they do. And so that realization, I don't think is set in until finally this year when people are like, yo, this isn't going away. And the biggest challenge is the constant mindset talks. So all I'm doing right now is real estate professionals alike, mortgage professionals alike, I'm like talking to them about now you have to train again. You got to train these legs so you can start jumping higher for that fruit. Because instead of that fruit being low, it's now way higher on the tree. So instead of complaining and waiting for the fruit to fall, go train your muscles and learn how to jump a little higher. So it's all about that mindset right now. And I think that's the biggest challenge people are going to be facing. Real estate mortgage, more than half have exited at the end of 2023, which for us, man, I mean, that's more for us. You know, the ones that stay consistent, the ones that stay dialed in are the ones that are going to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I think that's all right. I just saw statistics this morning on Facebook that 53% of agents in our market have sold one house or less so far this year.
Wow.
And we're close to the 6-month mark. I mean, we're not far off if you think about that.
Not at
And
all.
so that's like pretty wild to think through that. And I think that's entirely right. You mentioned before you had this low hanging fruit, now we need to train our legs to jump higher, which is an awesome analogy. I love that. What do you recommend for loan officers, real estate agents? Like, what does that look like in today's world? How do you get bigger, stronger? I remember BFS back in high school, bigger, faster,
Oh
stronger.
my God.
How do you get?
Oh, you just threw me off.
How do you get bigger? How do you get bigger, faster, stronger? From this 2024 market to be able to jump higher?
Yeah, listen, I have a different approach. I've been thinking about this a lot because people have been asking me, dude, what are you doing? How's the team doing well? How are you guys closing loans? The first thing you have to do, in my opinion, is look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're not that good. By the way, me too, okay?
Sure.
This isn't like me preaching to everybody else. I'm telling me the same thing because I do believe there's somebody out there that's just ready to take your spot. So number one is stop feeling bad for yourself. Look yourself in the mirror. Number two, you got to find a group of winners because unfortunately, we're not built to hold ourselves accountable. We're just not. Yes, do I want to lose 30 pounds? I do. Am I going to do it by myself? I'm not. I need somebody like you or somebody I trust that's going to be on my ass nonstop. Find your 2 or 3 people. I promise you there's winners out there. Don't say, I don't know where to look. Yes, you do. Go onto Facebook, find the networking events. They're literally all the time. Agents are throwing them. Loan officers are throwing them. Find the winners. Start a small group chat, 2 or 3 of you, set your goals. Now, those goals, make them specific to real estate, make them specific to mortgages. Include things like going to open houses, going to networking events. You have to start changing your mindset about what it means to be successful. In our industry, we want instant gratification. We believe success is by the loan closing, agents and loan officers alike, because why? We get paid. The problem is, again, the low-hanging fruit's gone. You got to train the muscles. In order to get paid, there are steps in between that you must now start doing and accepting as a win. So a win is going to an open house. Is it a closing? No, but guess what? You're doing something to grow that muscle. So find that group of people, so in this order, check yourself first. Find that group of people, reframe your brain work about what it actually means to be successful right now in this market.
Yeah, I think that's critical, right? In our organization, we're very, very big on teams are the way of the future when it comes to residential real estate sales. And I think that whether it is through a forced environment, through your office, brokerage, what have you, or through your own personal network, I think that's critically important. Finding the right people around you, for me, has been the only reason why I am where I'm at today, if that's worth anything. And that's because of specific people in my life. Like if I hang out with the right people, if I'm with the right people, the rest of it figures itself out. It's a great answer because it actually kind of segues right into my next question I've written down here. And this is kind of, you mentioned in your organization. So how many people at NDL?
150.
Okay, you have a 150 person organization. AIM is how many mortgage brokers?
20,000.
So representing in some way, shape, or form the CEO of 20,000. So there's a lot of different people on there. But to be on John's team, to be on the inner circle, you mentioned 20 people roughly on your team, right? So you have a 150 person company. They're doing 800 million in loans. You've done billions through the years, but it's a different level probably, I'm assuming, to be on your team, to be in your inner circle. What does that take? What does that look like? And how do you vet those people? How do you make sure that you control your inner circle within your organization? So if I'm growing a team, what am I looking for in teammates? What have you found success with? What works? What doesn't work?
So I love this question, and I want to take my time to answer it because I want to bring you like full circle on it. One of the biggest mistakes that I made early on in the business is not treating it like a person. And I just got this advice from a mentor of mine. His name's Tom Allis. So shout out to Tom, man. This guy is unbelievable. Just such a good dude. And he said, John, remember, and he was talking about, his first company, he talks about this public, so I have no issues. But the first time he did this, he filed bankruptcy, he tried to keep it together. And I said, what was the biggest issue? He said, I would give exceptions and I would give pricing here and pricing there. And then somebody taught me that you have to treat your business as a person. So would you take that money from another person? And when he said that to me recently, I was like, oh my God, no, I wouldn't. Like if you were the entity and it's Matt Talbot and that's the business as Matt Talbot, I got to go to Matt Talbot and say, hey, I got to give $1,000 credit on this loan. Would Matt Talbot, the person, tell me yes? No, he'd say, no, that's my money. I have to protect myself.
Right.
So the first thing is you got to make sure you set those boundaries first for anybody that's a business owner and doing that. And the reason I say that to you is we didn't do a good job of that up front, right? Because the low-hanging fruit, people are making money. You're like, oh, we don't need as much infrastructure as I think. People are getting paid. Because when people are getting paid, people are happy. But when you don't focus on the parameters, that starts to get loose. And that's what happened to us, right? We lost some great people that we probably shouldn't have lost. And I'm just being upfront with people from the entrepreneur side. So I told myself, I wanted to rebuild the team. I said, I'm going to do it my way this time around. So I got back into production last year with 3 people. I interviewed all 3 people. We all signed NDAs. And I interviewed about 15 people first and foremost, but I said, I'm only taking 3. And the biggest thing that I said is, look, if you want to be on my team, my expectations are psychotic. All right. And they are. Sure. Like you text
I know,
in the morning.
That's why I'm laughing. I guarantee
no,
because
you do. Like and here's what I told him. I need you to understand at any point in time, you don't have to be on this team. At any point in time, you can leave. Just know if you don't follow what I set in place, you're just off the team. I don't hate you. You're just not on my specific team. And at first, people think it's like a joke, and then you're kicking people off the team, and then people, oh my God, wait, what's happening? Biggest thing for us is setting expectations. So for instance, we have a group text. Once you wake up in the morning, you got to text good morning. I want to know what time you start your day. Everybody does it. Every single person. That's a priority on the team. People are like, that's crazy. No, it's not. I'm trying to grow a team here. I'm trying to build a family atmosphere. Not this bullshit family atmosphere that people say we have a family here. You know what my family does? They check on me all day long. That's what family does, right? Yeah, right? Like think about going to school. Think about getting ready for school when you were growing up.
Right.
What did your parents have to do to make sure you were ready for school? Whether it was the lunches, making sure you had money to buy lunch, making sure you had a ride if you weren't taking the bus, if you had to get picked up, if you had extracurriculars, all of that got planned how? As a family. You talked about it. So we talk about that as a team. My expectations are crazy. We have a point system that we've built as well. So if you're behind pace, you got to do open houses. But we buddy with each other. And here's what's happening. My team is leading the charges right now. At first, everybody's pushing back and no. But now what do? I don't even say anything anymore. If you look at my group text, if someone's behind pace, you got to see the other person says, hey, so-and-so, you're behind pace, open house this weekend. I found 2 that we can go to together. And now the team's propelling each other. Why? Because we're winning. And we're breaking barriers in this market. People think you can't write 5 loans. I got people closing 12, 15. That proves to others, what does it do? We talk about this. It gives permission to others to do more. So that accountability piece, if you're that person, that guy or gal that has to hold them accountable, it is your duty to hold them that accountable, because I promise you, when they're getting paid, they're going to stop complaining and all they're going to do is thank you and give you a big hug.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. One question that I have addition to, when you're creating goals, so you mentioned that like the team holds each other accountable, which is awesome. When you're creating goals, do you like the idea of creating friendly competition where it's like one winner within your team gets something? Or do you like the idea of creating like team goals? Do you do stuff like that to try to incentivize that sort of camaraderie? Do you recommend competition or like overall team goals?
Yeah, you have to know your people, like depending on the size of your team. Look, one of the things I talk about, so Gabby, she took over as I step into my new role. She's been taking over, helping with the team. I mean, she's crushing it right now. But one of the things I talk to her about is like, everybody needs to understand they have a role. And if you might be a starter, but you might not be the star player on the team, right? You might be the 6th man or woman. You have to have those real conversations with people. So that's the first thing that I always do with the team is like, if the most you're going to get is 3 loans, then you bet your ass we're going to do everything in our power to get you to 3 loans, if that's the most you're capable of doing at this time. But one, understand the roles of the people. And then I do like setting up against each other. But you have to pair them properly. And that's why knowing your people is super important. You don't want, it's like in school, you have a group project. What always happens? There's one kid that does what? All the work.
Sure.
That was me. I was the idiot. I was like, I can't miss this grade. I can't fail. My mom will kill me.
Beat me.
Yeah, that was literally it. So you have to learn that first and foremost. And then you have to check in constantly because you got to get them bought in. And the way you get them bought in is by little stuff that you're doing. So it's the deposits that I make every day with the team, whether it's helping them fix a loan, whether it's putting out a fire for them, whether it's doing a real estate meeting for them, helping them with a podcast. And then I'm not afraid anymore to tell them what I've helped them with. So if they're slacking on the competition, it ruins it for somebody else. So what I do is I said, hey, do I not do enough for you? I'm serious. Like, and if I don't, tell me that I got to do more.
Sure.
But all I'm asking is for 30-day commitment for you to commit to this prize that we're doing.
Right.
The whole team's bought in except you, and it's really hurting us right now. What am I missing? And now, what am I doing? I made deposits, so I can ask for withdrawals. So it's all a process. I love pitting them up against each other, but the most important thing is knowing your people and knowing who to pair with who.
Yeah. It's radical candor, right?
Yes.
Gary Vee calls it also kind candor. So you could be like radical with it, where you always want to have that direct communication, but also use kindness along the way, which I know that you do, just knowing you personally. I'm going around my questions because I knew no matter what, whenever we talk, it just turns into like leadership. It turns into motivation. It turns into inspiration. It turns into like, you can tell that our brains are constantly just thinking about how can we make our teams better? How can we make ourselves better, make our teams better on a consistent basis? It's like all we think about. And you get home, and I'm sure you got to think about the babies too. I don't have that yet, God willing. But so it really is. It always leads back to the same road, which is awesome. But going back to NDL, you're a big tech guy. So John, a lot of people don't know, like he's this big, bold personality. He's got this deep voice. Like I wish I could talk like you on this podcast, right? Like he's got this deep voice. He's, great smiles, very awesome public speaker, and just a great CEO in a lot of different ways. But you also have this very like techie, nerdy side to you that a lot of people don't know about, right? Like even when we were setting up our office, he comes in, he's like, okay, you gotta do this with the network and all this stuff. And he's like, he likes doing that. So where are you at from both either personally or from a company perspective, however you want to answer this? You could say, hey, I like this new gizmo that just came out. It's at Best Buy. Personally, or from a company's perspective, where are you at with tech? Like, where's your current tech mindset at?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the compliments, man. I really appreciate it. These are veneers. So if anybody out there, I did pay for these. Okay, they're very expensive for those looking. But it's crazy because people don't know, so I've been an introvert like my whole life, like literally my entire life. And I started stepping out of my shell a lot as I got older because I was like, I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps a bit. Like my dad was the man, for a really long time. And I saw it and I was like, that's kind of cool. Well, what do I got to do to like, how do I do that? So that's how I started getting into like trying to understand public speaking, and even like you, man, like even the interview, and I've never had you interview me and ask questions, and they're obviously very well thought out and your brain's working very quickly. But from the tech side, then I'll kind of walk you through it. So my biggest take on tech is the adoption of tech. People don't need to have an AP in technology. They don't have to have some advanced course of masters in tech. They got to have a general understanding, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And so my biggest thing is like, how do I take the complication of tech and just explain it into layman terms and why it's important? Tech's job right now is to help change behavioral patterns. And the reason is we're just not as efficient as we can be. And I'm sorry for those watching, you're just not. You're not more efficient than a robot. You're not more efficient than AI. But with technology, you can get closer and make yourself valuable to the marketplace. Like stop thinking about today and start realizing that not just for you, but your potential future kids. If they don't understand how it works or how it leverages, just know they're going to be left behind by somebody that understands even a basic amount of somebody that can use ChatGPT basically.
Right. Basic
understanding. So that's the first thing, is changing people's mindset about why that's important. And I don't tolerate. What I don't tolerate on the team is this. Dude, it doesn't matter. I don't let that slide. Like that's just one of those tics that I have. Why does it not matter? What do you mean it doesn't matter? It's technology. So right now, the biggest thing I believe for anybody in commission sales, by the way, I don't even care if it's real estate or mortgage, you have to be willing to submit to the fact that you have to get yourself into the gamification process. And you just have to submit and just let it go.
Yes.
And understand that you got to do it. And so you need to build and work with tech companies that can gamify what you need. So what I mean for gamification purposes, if you're a real estate agent, gamification would be something like a point system where you earn points for going to an open house. So they submit it. They tag the Facebook link of them at the open house. Let's just say you're the leader, Matt. It goes to you. Matt hits approved. Great job. You get 2 points. And then those points add up, and that's how you should be changing your patterns. But more importantly, you should also get into the gamification where you're pinning yourself against somebody else. But I want it to where it's only against people that are in your tenure. So imagine you're an agent or a loan officer or anybody in commission sales. Imagine that you're 1 year in the industry and you're doing this point system, but you see everybody else that's been in the industry for 1 year only. That's real competition. Like, I don't want to compete. If I'm a new agent, I don't want to compete with Matt Talbot. I got to see Matt Talbot's name at every morning.
Right.
It's annoying. But imagine Matt Talbot now. You've been in the space now how long? I mean,
7, 8 years.
Yeah. So, but imagine you log in and you see people 7, 8 years. You're going to go, okay, that I can get that. I can get that. And that's what people got to just start accepting and finding those resources. Because again, if you don't find them, somebody else will, and they're going to capitalize before you do.
Yeah, we built out, left tons of money on the table the last couple of years, really building out a tech stack to be able to do this. And this is exactly how I think about it. I love what you said, is gamifying the process, because it should be. Like, if you're in 100% commission sales, like, athletes are a great starting point for a lot of people that do that, because it's just competitive. Like, if you don't get a rush from like, okay, I want to beat this guy, or I want to be in this position, or it's not even about necessarily the commission, it's about winning. Like, I always looked at the stack rankings in Michigan as a whole when I first started, and I was like, I would just dream to be like top 100. You know what I mean? It was like my goal was like top 100. If I could just get on that list, if I could do a filter year to day, I'm top 100, I would be there. And so you need to create these internal games. That's not, I didn't say I need to be top 100 because I need to make X amount of dollars. It had nothing to do with the money. It was just like, I know, like, for myself, I need to become the agent that can do that, right? And so we really try to build out that gamification, that tech on the background to be able to do so. We have a point system as well too. I think that's.
Well, I got it from you. Sorry, I forgot. Let me make sure I give credit where it's due. That point system, how we built it, was based off what you and I talked about. I rearranged what was important, but I totally forgot. I want to make sure that credit goes your way. Holy shit.
You're good. So, like, there's a lot of people doing it, right?
Yeah.
So creating a system, creating a point system, and making a trackable business. So something that we believe in, I've recently deep dove for Redefine Real Estate with our new brokerage, right? I want to talk about, we have our core values, we have our mission, vision, and our motto, okay? That's like a standard for any organization, right? What kind of leads where you go. And then I started thinking there's stuff above your core values that a leadership team should be talking about, what you should be thinking about. And I started writing down, what do I believe? This is my new thing. And I have 7 to 9 things of what we believe as an organization. And one of the things that we definitely believe with Redefine Real Estate is successful business owners consistently track all aspects of their business. Tracking all aspects of your business is not fun, because it's like a spreadsheet and this and that. So when you gamify that, right, you consistently track all aspects of your business. You can create a game around it. It's a lot more fun to say, hey, Sue, George, whatever, I beat you on our point system today, or, you know, we're dropping the slack here. Let's make sure to compete for it. It's a lot more that game type system that you're talking about. And so gamifying, I think, is super important, having the tech to back it up. And I know you guys are doing a ton on the back end. Howard and the team have done a lot of very, very interesting stuff from NDL from a tech perspective. So I'm excited to see what you guys have in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to pivot.
Yes, sir.
So AIM, a lot of people don't probably know what AIM is. A lot of people also do, right? There's going to be people that are listening from a real estate perspective, from a finance perspective, from a leadership perspective. So what is AIM? And you know, can you dive, as you explain AIM, I think the segue would be to explain the difference between a mortgage broker and a bank.
Yep. Yeah. So Association of Independent Mortgage Experts, it's been around for a little over 6 years now. I recently took over, appointed as CEO and chairman. I took over the CEO role about 90 days ago, and then officially chairman April 1st. So not even, about 50 days. So it's been fun. Just decision-making has just started. So the biggest thing, I worked on the retail side for a long time. So you know what, here, I'll explain this to everybody. I'm going to explain this as simply as I can. I want to talk about interest rates and how people get interest rates, okay? So here's how money is made when it comes to the mortgage side. Every morning, the rates come out, okay? Rates come out, and there's a bunch of massive investors, and these companies are publicly traded. The two top ones are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, both publicly traded entities. So that means they have a board. That means they have to appease investors. That's the first thing people don't grasp. This money's not coming out of thin air. We are getting it from somebody that has trillions of it, okay? There's a massive group of people that have a lot of money that are hedging it together. So when the rates come out in the morning, what they do is they say, okay, here are where the rates are at. Then what they do is they give it to a lender specifically. So example is they give it to a retail bank. So I want you to think of large institutions. I don't want to say any names just in case I get a cease and desist, okay?
I'll say them for you. So large institutions, Chase Bank, Bank of America. These big, I'm happy to put it out
Perfect.
there.
Thank you.
That's the definition of a large bank.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So
I bank with Chase. It's okay.
No, me too. So they get this, right?
Yeah.
So what they do when they get the rates,
Yes.
they then add their margins on top to make their money.
Right.
So what they say is, here's the raw pricing for rates. That's what the investors say. The lender that gets it says, we want to make now on every deal, we're going to add 400 basis points. So it's just a percentage. So 400 basis points on a $100,000 loan, that's $4,000 that the bank is saying they want to make. A mortgage broker, the max they're allowed to make is 275 basis points. Okay, that's the max they can make. Then the lender, we have to still go through the lender. The difference is from a wholesale lender, they're not adding 400, they're adding only 80 basis points. So let's use simple numbers. Let's say they're only adding 75. So now from the broker side, I can only charge 275. The lender I'm using is only charging 75. I'm still only charging you as a consumer 350. And on retail, the average is 450. And by the way, publicly traded companies, just go look. I'm not just making these numbers up. So that's how the money is given to you as a consumer. Now, as a mortgage broker, I'm not tied to just one bank. I'm signed up personally with over 86 different lenders. So if there's a program that you need, I have the connections. I can reach out. I'm literally doing the shopping for you. And then I have so much more regulation because of what happened in 2008, which, by the way, I was in high school, so nobody blame me for that, okay?
It's your fault.
Yeah, I know, right? People are like, well, you remember '08? I was in junior high, okay? Like junior, I was a junior. But that's how interest rates actually work, okay? So money from investors, money to the lender, and then that lender, if they do wholesale, so a mortgage broker, they can only add a smaller amount of margin. It comes to me, I can only add a certain amount of margin. That's the biggest difference. So just to give you perspective, if retail charges $450 and the most I can charge is $350 on a $100,000 loan, you're literally saving $1,000 in costs on a $100,000 loan. That's absurd when you really think about the scale and percentage of it. So
average sale price in Michigan, $350,000. You're talking about $3,000-$4,000 difference in breakdown. So I think it's really important, and I appreciate you take it, like sometimes going back to the basics for someone so experienced, when you explain it that way is very important for a lot of people listening to this, because if you're in real estate, if you sell mortgages, if you don't understand how the money moves and how things work, if you're a real estate agent, like figure it out, like listen to stuff like this, like play it back, rewind it, play that back again and listen to it and fully digest it, because it blows my mind that people don't even understand like the basics of how money moves within the industry and within our country, because like that really ties in with the country, nationally, international economies. I mean, it's very, very important to understand how this works. It's very interesting from my perspective. So,
and I'm glad you said one thing. I don't want to miss this either. I love that you just said what you said. I talk to my team about this all the time. Like, if you're not studying your craft and someone says, well, why do I have to study that? Because you never know who you're going to be in a room with that might need you to know that stuff. And now you're missing a conversation because you decided not to focus and master your craft. Could you imagine if a doctor said, like, I went through residency, but I didn't really read all the books. Exactly. What do you mean? What do you mean you didn't read the books? I think you have the flu. Yeah. What are you talking about? So we get paid. I'm telling you, there's people out there listening. I know how you get paid. All right. I know you make some cheddar out there. So if that's you, go be a master of your craft. It's crazy to me. I'm glad you said that, man. It drives me up the wall.
I think it's super important to start with the basics. So you have these brokers who in essence pull from all these different sources of the bigger money, right? And then you have your bigger banks and other organizations. So where does AIM come into this whole equation?
Yeah, so AIM's biggest focus is just making sure that, so we have our group of lenders that we're signed up with, okay? These lenders are vetted out by AIM directly. We ensure that they're absolutely taking care of the broker. So one of the things that we deal with as a broker, which agents don't deal with this, but if we do a mortgage transaction, if that home is sold or refinanced within 6 months, I lose my commission.
Sure.
As a mortgage broker. All of it, by the way, guys, like it's gone. This is a real thing. People have no idea. It's called EPO, early payoff request. So AIM's job, we protect that. We make sure that there isn't anybody kind of gouging into the clients, because what happens is these companies, they would take our loans back in the past and then they wouldn't tell us, and what would they do? They'd call them and refinance them themselves, because why? They can cut me out as a mortgage broker. So AIM's job is to constantly protect that. That's like one of the biggest things we're really focusing on, is protecting the data for mortgage brokers. Number 2 right now is just helping brokers close more loans by changing the narrative and changing the mindset. That's just been an absolute huge focus for myself. So giving them the tips, giving them the tools, all the training necessary for them to be effective. Because one of the things retail has is they have departments that have millions and millions of dollars that they can spend on the trainings and all this. Mortgage brokers, a lot of these shops are small shops, 10 people or less. They don't have those kind of resources, but they're doing great work in their community. They're taking care of consumers, and they're the right fit for the consumer and for real estate agents alike. So our job is to help shelter that. With the money that we bring in, we generate quite a bit of revenue, thank God for our membership sales and all our sponsors and vendors that we have. And then from there, we're providing the information to our broker so they can use it and leverage it. And then the last piece is we want consumers to know broker market share is up to almost 25%. 10 years ago, it was at about 13%.
Wow.
The most it ever was about 70%. And you're seeing the biggest trend right now. Retail banks are petrified of the broker space because it's going to keep growing. When I tell you the amount of vendors I have, and you'll see some big vendor names come out that everyone knows about, we've just been working on these contracts and deals. They all know. All the data they have says the mortgage broker channel is the channel that's growing, and you can't stop it as much as some retail people are trying to stop it. So those are 3 or 4 of the focuses that we have at AIM.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is very sacred about the industry as a whole, right? So one thing sacred and eye-opening along the way, I became a real estate agent. It was kind of like this like wild, wild west world where like there wasn't like this structure. It wasn't like you go work for this company and you get a job and there's 200 people there and you have a boss and you show up and you get your salary and all this. It was like I worked in a mostly commission world, right? It wasn't 100% commission. It was mostly commission. And so it was 100% commit. It was just a whole different wild, wild west in a lot of different ways. The longer I was in real estate, and then I started to figure out what brokers are and what different loan shops are and all the industry itself, right? You realize that there's a ton of people doing a lot of good in our communities. They're the ones that are sponsoring the events. They're the ones that are donating to the American Red Cross. They're doing all these different things. They're doing good in their community, and they're working very, very hard as individual entrepreneurial people, whether they work under a bigger team, a bigger organization, or just themselves. And so there needs to be, in my opinion, some layer of protection around that, and there has to be some layer of guidance. And I think that's where sort of AIM comes in a lot of different ways, similar to how you might think, or some people might relate to NAR for National Association of Realtors. It's important to have these sort of political organizations, in my opinion, although not perfect by any means, to be able to support these types of people, because I believe it's what's best for the public. I believe it's what's best for the consumer. And I believe that there's some sacredness in that because it's a personal experience. You know, definitely when it comes to selling real estate sales, like people let you into their home, there's a death in the family, there's a marriage, there's a divorce, there's kids, there's a lot of different reasons why this happens. And then the mortgage piece is just as important, right? They're borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars from you to be able to make all this happen. So there's a lot of stress involved. There's a lot of people's lives involved. It needs to be some bit of regulated, but there has to be some bit of checks and balances and protection for people within the industry, in my opinion.
100%.
So you mentioned some of the current goals. Is there like, where do you see like AIM going? And you kind of sort of touched on it a little bit, but like where is it going? And then what is the biggest challenge in the future, would you say, for mortgage brokers?
So where it's going, like I already see the vision in my head, now it's just about executing and making sure it comes to life. But where I see AIM going from just a platform of helping brokers close more loans is literally leading from the front. And what I mean by that is like going live. So I'm a data guy. And one of the things, I'm very manic. When I get into something, I really go nuts and I figure it out.
Yes,
and I don't stop until I figure it out. And that's just, I've been wired like that since I was a kid. And so I was watching during COVID, and then I looked at all the data, but the streaming community exploded during COVID. So companies like Kick, Twitch, Rumble, you're talking about billions of dollars in investments. And now you have some of the largest influencers are literally like, yes, they're considered celebrities now, but they're not the celebrities of what we remember even 5 years ago. You have like Aiden Ross, your Kai Cenats, all of this that are blowing up. And what that is, all it is giving people perspective into your life. And so what I said, okay, we have this Facebook group with tens of thousands of people in it. Why shouldn't they just see me go live with the real estate office? Why shouldn't they just see me go live talking to a client, talking to an agent, doing a meeting, doing a trading? So I want to turn the entire community into a live platform. And I just want them to see not just me, but other community leaders do what they do. And we have so many people willing to do it. I actually just did one with the real estate agent recently where we went live inside the Facebook group. People went nuts. They love, wow, that's how you do it? Because people overthink stuff.
Sure.
And I got to just put myself in that perspective that not everybody has done $5 billion worth of mortgages. From the world I'm from, that's common. And so for me, I was like, yeah, it's normal. I should be doing this much business. People are like, no, dude, that's not normal for mortgage brokers. So now it's changing that narrative. And like you said, I just want to give them permission to know like, yo, go do this. Go knock on a door. Go talk to an agent. So going live is going to be a huge ordeal for us over the next, I would say, 18 to 24 months. Big deal.
Very excited that you said it, because part of our flow here at Redefine Real Estate is we do a Tuesday training and we film them, and we put that into a database. So if you miss a training, it's all easy to search. It's all searchable. You can create coaching programs around it for within an organization. But that's one thing that I'd like to implement as well too, just like putting it out there, because a lot of these brokerages, they recruit and they say, okay, get a weekly, monthly, whatever it is, training from our managing broker, from whoever, and I'm like, for me, it's like the way that I look at the industry, even though just in general, if we all rise up, the whole thing gets better. I played a lot of junior golf growing up, and a lot of those guys on the PGA Tour, they actually help each other out. Like after the round, they're helping each other out. They're trying to get the next guy better. It doesn't make any sense. They're playing for millions of dollars. You'd think that they like want to do worse, but if they know if the whole game rises, if the whole thing rises, everyone gets better. And in this case, there's a lot of consumers that are involved. There's a lot of the public is generally involved. So being able to put that out there and show like, hey, this isn't rocket science. You can do it too. Okay, John is a living, breathing, normal human. Just like he puts your pants on, just like everyone else, right? It's just they can see that perspective. And they're like, okay, I'm able to do this. I can get out of my comfort zone. It helps them do so. And so I love that answer, because I think it is kind of ripping off the Band-Aid and showing vulnerability, which a lot of people don't do in today's world.
No, and it's showing, like, it's funny. It's also like showing confidence in just the fear of of failure, because it's like, that is still a fear of mine. People think like I just walk into these meetings like I'm going to own these meetings. No, in the back of my head, every time I do a meeting, I'm like, okay, this can go south. Like I always think about like the worst thing that could happen. I never go into a meeting and I'm like, this is going to be great. And it's not intentional. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm literally just prepping my brain to mentally prepare for the no. Why? Because we do sales, and again, low hanging fruit again. Like you do sales, you do realize that like no is what you're supposed to hear. Like it's always weird to me when people are like, dude, they didn't tell me yes. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's very normal. Like
Right.
why should they, you're asking them to give you the biggest financial asset. You're going to make thousands of dollars on the deal. Like go work for it a little bit. It's okay. And so I'm glad you brought that up. It's a huge piece.
Yeah, I think selling doesn't start until someone says no. So if you call yourself a salesperson and like it's just a yes all the way through the sale, you're just an order taker. You're not a salesperson.
Yes.
And I'm not saying the goal of a salesperson is to turn what should be a no into a yes. You're not convincing someone of something they don't want to do. That's not the intention.
Yes.
The intention is to coach and educate them, and eventually they'll realize like yes is the right answer, right? That's the idea. Which kind of segues into my last section here of something that I wanted to talk through. I know we're probably running a little bit late on time. That's okay though. And that's leadership and sales stuff. Okay. So selling. So like John, like obviously like, CEO, president, speeches, TV, the whole shebang, right? But like you're on the phone with a client, or you're trying to talk through a loan, you're trying to explain something. How would you describe your sales skills, and what would you do, what you do differently compared to what maybe you see out there?
I just did a training on this. So I think the biggest thing for me is my personal brand and how much it really means to me. And so like people always say, what do you mean personal brand? And so here's what I mean. Ready? So same situation. My name's John Haddad. Rest assured, I've been in this industry for about 11 years now. And I want you to know I'm going to take great care of you. I'm going to treat you just like I would my own mom and dad. Okay. One. Number two. Hey, I just want you to know I've been in this space for 11 years, and let me just kind of walk you through my life a bit so you know why I love to do what I do. At 12 years old, I had to start working. I didn't want to work. I had to work to take care of my family and just help out around the house. That was just very important to me. And I started working at my uncle's dollar store at a very young age. And I would work behind the cash register because I spoke English. And what I learned is I loved connecting with people, and I loved putting a smile on people's faces. That somehow, magically or another, led me into doing mortgages years and years later. Now I've been at this for 11 years. I'm one of the top mortgage brokers in the country. And I want you to know I'm going to take the best care of you that I possibly can. I'm going to be with you every single step of the way. So what's the difference?
I'm going to interrupt you right away, because like that to me is gold. And this is what most entry level people, and definitely in a moderate, and even some of the experts out there, they don't understand of like being able to articulate what makes you different. Like that was a very personal story.
Yes.
And I envision you as a kid in the store doing the thing. And I envision you like with a headset on, selling me a mortgage, right? And so it becomes very personable, which is very important in your world, even harder than as a real estate agent, because you're not face to face with these people, right? You can't see my energy. You can't see that I'm the best looking guy on the planet Earth, right? You can't see all that stuff, right? And so being able to paint that picture and tell that story is very, very important. I think that's totally why I think that you it's awesome that you said that, because like that's the way I think about you in selling. It's a very personal thing in that you're not selling them trying to talk them into the best rate, talk them into the best program, or anything like that. It's like, I'm here to assist you and support you. This is who I am. I'm going to put that all out there. If you like that, great. If not, that's fine too.
Can I give you so I want to show you, I want to share this with everybody, including you here. So I did my first ever, I've never done a public speaking course. So I did my first ever course. I was texting you about it, and
Who was it with?
Rene Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Rene, this guy, love you, brother. Like, thank you so much.
I'd love to meet him.
You got it. You're going to meet
Yeah.
him. Not you got to.
Yeah.
I will make sure you meet him.
Done.
He's amazing. But he's high ticket price. And so I went in there skeptical. And I'll say his price. He doesn't care. He's going to set $6,000 to take this course. All right. And it's all about public speaking, and it's the science behind this course. And so I took the course, and there's an award he gives at the end called the Lighthouse Award. And he tells a story. I don't want to get into it, but you're picked by everybody that's there. It's only 8 to 12 people at a time that he takes, and he does tons of these courses. But I won that award. And it meant more to me than you could possibly imagine, because I've been working on my public speaking skills for years. Like, people don't realize I was not good at all. I would shake, I'd walk off stage, and I was like, I want to figure this out. But he gave me for the first time framework about telling your story. I've always been able to tell that story, no issues, but I want to share this with everybody. And here's a great framework. I just shared this with my team yesterday, and I want you guys all to hear about it. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. So here's the framework. You ready? Write this down. This is for you too, Matt. You're going to love it. First thing is, I believe. And then right underneath that, put I remember. And then underneath that, put what that taught me. And then the last thing is, that created a passion. So ready? Now, anytime you go to tell a story, anytime you want to build a brand, here's all you do. I believe that it only takes one person to change your life forever. I remember being 12 years old and not being able to fit in that well at school. And I had this one incredible friend whose name was Brad, who was one of the popular kids that always, for some reason, took me under his wing and made sure that if there was sports or anything happening, I'd always be invited. And what that taught me is that all it takes for you to feel special is one person believing in you. And that created a passion for me to help others be the best version of them every single day.
I love that. Like, to have this strategy and to think through that. And this is where like sales acumen comes in, right? This is where like actually practicing your craft. It's like you go to, if you're playing basketball, you go shoot free throws. Same thing. So like, I'm going to practice this type of stories to be able to use that in my sales acumen along the way. I think is very, very important.
And you build just what I did with my team yesterday. I just rolled it out to them, is build your personal brand with this.
Right.
So now when someone says, what do you do?
Right.
Say, listen, yes, I do mortgage, I do real estate, but I want to walk you through it.
Right.
I believe, and then there's your story.
Right.
When he gave me that framework, now I've never had real framework. Now I'm getting framework, and it's like, oh, this is going to be dangerous.
Yeah,
I'm going to get good at this.
Yes.
And like, to your point, I am now studying it, but even me every day, I'm constantly mastering my craft the best that I can. And I'm nowhere near where I need to be.
Nowhere near where he needs to be. Did you guys hear that? That to me is very much a growth mindset. Okay. And I think that's the difference between, definitely in our worlds, when it's 100% commission sales. I think that's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, or people that make it and people who don't, is you have this growth mentality, right? We were talking about this before we sat down. I don't even know if I made it on camera. If it did, maybe we'll play some B-roll. But we were talking about this beforehand, of this growth mentality and this mindset game that people are playing, and that, it really does come down to giving yourself permission to be able to do that. And so, what better permission do you have than when you practice something and have a strategy to go to? So, talking through a talk track, talking through a script, understanding how that works, and then tying it into your overall flow is very important. People think like, I'm going to get in real estate, I'm going to get in mortgages, I'm just going to make some calls, I'll figure it out as I go. Yes, the reps matter, yes. But when you practice the right thing. So I grew up golfing, right? If I practice the right swing, I'd rather hit 10 of the right shots than 300 of the wrong shots. Great sometimes analogy. You got it. But then the idea is you figure out how do I get to that right shot, right? And so I want to hit 300 of the right shots. And so I look at coaches, I look at growth. It doesn't matter what it costs sometimes and stuff like that, because those takeaways are huge. So congrats on the award
Thank you very much.
At the event. You kind of tied in this, but last but not least, I got one more question. It really kind of ties into the entire conversation, but what are the traits of the best leaders?
I think the number one trait is understanding that voice in your head and realizing that you have to just lose to it less every single day. And it's that voice I talk about a lot, but I just did, they just posted this. But I really believe that all of us know what we're supposed to do. And you said it best earlier. You talked about your dad, right? Just do the right thing. You know right from wrong. You do. If I said, Matt, should you eat healthy? Yes. Matt, should you work out every day? Yeah. Matt, should you drink a gallon of water every day? Yeah, probably should. Should you be a better husband? Yeah, I should be. You already know that. The difference is, I believe people that are resilient is the word I'm going to use. They understand that, and then every day, when that voice tells them don't wake up, they're waking up, and they're just getting that much better every day. But they're constantly self-analyzing themselves. And then the second piece to that is, it's important to be critical on yourself, but not to the point to where you can't move and function. And I've done that before. It's very crippling, where I'm just so hard on myself, and that's just I think that's that's just the thing people have, where we're so much more critical on ourselves than other people. But be critical on yourself, but be very forgiving as well. But only be forgiving if you're willing to take the actions to forgive yourself. You can't be forgiving if you're just going to do the same shit again that you did the day before. That's not fair. That's like somebody that's, I'm going to start my diet January 1st. Come on. We all do it. That doesn't matter. So those would be the top two things that I think about up front, that resiliency piece and that critical piece. And then I think a last piece of it, your willingness to put yourself in stressful situations. The amount of comfort people have it is absurd to me how much people love comfort. And I get it feels good. I just didn't grow. Like, I don't know. I love my mom and dad, but they were born in the Middle East. My mom dropped out of high school. Love her to death. She's an amazing woman. This woman's brilliant. My dad, hard worker, man. My dad grew up back home, didn't speak English when he came to the country. He figured it out. They are resilient. So I think that's built in me because of how resilient they are. But to that point, there was a limit to what they could teach me. And that's not their fault. They taught me, they said, Jonathan, here's everything we know. The rest of it, you got to go find other people to help. And my kids, God willing, same thing. Guys, this is all I got. You got to go find good people to help you out. So finding those people around you too, man, oh my God, you got to find, people want to see you win. I promise. The problem is the people's voices that are the loudest are the negative ones. And sometimes that's all you can hear because the noise is so loud. You got to learn to tune that out and find the winners. And they're there. There's so many of them there, man, that want to help you. So those would be my tips.
Becomes a lot easier to become a good leader when you're surrounded by people with good traits.
Yeah.
Not always other good leaders, people with good traits, because you can absorb those good traits, right? So thank you so much for coming out today. Really, really appreciate it. Next Door Lending is the shop he represents. AIM, CEO of AIM, currently 2024 here. Just a wealth of knowledge. Tune into John's stuff. You can follow him all over social media. You can drop the handles and stuff, but we'll put it in the comments and all that stuff. Tune into John's stuff. He's got a lot of great material out there. I'm very, very excited. He's had tremendous success, but more importantly, where him and his organization, the people around him are fantastic. Where they're going is going to be a fun ride. It's going to be very interesting to watch. So I'm excited for the years to come. Congrats on your success. Thanks so much for coming out today.
Thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you for everything.